everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Lieutenant Colonel Alea Nadeem, who's running for Congress in Ohio. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here.
And I'm excited for the conversation today. I first want to start really at the beginning here. You have a very interesting past, and I would love to dive in there. To start off the conversation, what exactly made you decide, hey, I want to jump into politics?
Well, I laugh because never in my life did I imagine I would be jumping into politics, right? So I think for me, it was a happenstance, and it really does come from my service. So I joined the Air Force right after high school. What happened actually is I was a junior when 9/11 happened, and I watched, the second tower get hit, and it really affected me. And when our nation was united, we stand, we want help, I decided to throw my name in the hat and join. And part of it is I understood the culture of the Middle East. I spoke the language. Because I had this really unfortunate incident when I was a child, I was actually kidnapped from Ohio to Iraq. And so I lived under Saddam Hussein. I was there during portions of the first Gulf War. So I really lived without freedom. I lived especially as a woman and a little girl, it was very scary. So I've been always really grateful to live in this country and in this flag. And so when 9/11 happened years later, it just inspired me to serve. And so same thing with running for Congress. I'm not a career politician. This is my first time running for public office. I am just tired of seeing what I call a say do gap. People say things, but then they don't do what they say. And I'm just trying to change the game and get stuff done. And so I put my name in the hat.
And first of all, I can't even imagine what you went through as a child, being kidnapped and living under Saddam Hussein's regime. I mean, how did that exactly change your perspective or really shape your perspective to come back to America and say, hey, like, I need to not only serve my country, but serve it in a different capacity now running for Congress?
Brittany, it just made me really grateful. And one of the things that I really appreciate about this country is how special it is and how we have cultivated a middle class. Our quality of life is amazing. Had I not lived in Iraq, I don't know if I would appreciate everything that we have here. One thing that always bothers me, and this has always bothered me in politics at a very young age, is when people were frustrated with politics or you name it, or whoever got elected as president, Democrat or Republican, people would say, I'm going to leave. I'm moving to Canada. And it really bothered me. And so I wanted to say, just go. If you don't like it here, go. If you think it's so bad here. And so I think my experiences, just being grateful and appreciative what this nation has given me. I mean, look, I'm here talking to you today because I was rescued, right? Between the US government, the FBI, and my mom. I was an 11-year-old girl who was a nobody, and this country rescued me. So I think that I just want to translate that into Congress being a servant leader. I think Congress has forgotten they work for the people. So my whole spiel is I will work for the people. My job is to serve the people and be the best representative that I can do. Doesn't I don't want to be a Republican or Democrat. I want to be somebody who represents Northwest Ohio.
And I like that you want to fill what is you described as that say do gap. And that's something I hear from a lot of veterans, especially veterans serving in Congress. I come from a family of veterans. My uncle is an Air Force veteran. My grandfather was a Marine. And they have the same mentality of, talk is one thing, but do it. Actions speak louder than words, get things done. And I see that especially with the Four Country Caucus, which is a bipartisan caucus of Republicans and Democrats who served our country in the military. Now they're in Congress, and they find ways to work together. You're saying you don't want to be a Republican, you don't want to be a Democrat. I mean, can you work with members of Congress? What are the issues that matter to you?
Yeah, well, one of the things, veterans, it's easy to work together, right? We come from all around the United States, from all walks of life, come together and have to complete a mission. So it's just natural for us to work together and get stuff done. And I always say, if we don't get our mission accomplished, right, it's just a lesson learned. So we're used to getting things done. So I think bringing, Democrats, Republican, veterans together, we just know how to get stuff done. In terms of what's really important to me, so I actually grew up here in Toledo, Ohio. My mother is a union electrician. My stepfather's a welder. My sister's a union electrician. I mean, I can go on. We're like a working class family, and I joke around, I am the black sheep of the family. I don't have a trade skill like they do. And what I've seen over the years is these jobs, these blue collar jobs, have been hollowed out. And what's happened is, unfortunately, we've allowed policy at the national level. We've incentivized businesses to take their businesses to China and Mexico. And we can't have that. Ohio alone, since 1983, has lost 400 manufacturing jobs. And so the area that I grew up in used to be the American might. So World War II, we were pumping out we were pumping out the Jeep, right? The Jeep is made here in Toledo. We were pumping out airplanes. We were pumping out engines. We're not doing that like we used to. And so we've hollowed it out. So that's a really big issue for me, is that I just want to ensure that we have a healthy manufacturing, blue collar jobs. Because I don't know if you'll recall, Brittany, is during COVID, we couldn't even make our own chips for our vehicles. And the price of vehicles skyrocketed. We have to have some sovereign options, that we have our own manufacturing base. And the other part that I'm really passionate about is Ohio specifically. We have this unfortunate statistics. We are number 7 in overdoses in the nation, and 80 to 90% is related to fentanyl. So now you've hollowed out our jobs, and we have a drug problem. This is how a city disappears, and this is what I'm really worried about, and we have to change.
I know that President Trump has said that he wants to bring back manufacturing to the United States. That's part of the reason why he has implemented his tariff policy. Obviously, as you know, domestic manufacturing can't grow here overnight. So what do you want to see done? What would you do in Congress to bring back domestic manufacturing?
Excellent question. It's a patience game, right? It took us a while. If you think about it, it took us a while to go to China and Mexico. Right? It's going to take us a while to get those back. But I think what you have to do is you have to figure out how to incentivize businesses to come back. One of the things that I hear with businesses is, well, labor is cheaper. Well, maybe so, but is it right? Just because you can get cheaper labor, is it right to sell out your own country? So I think we have to incentivize businesses to come back to the United States. And I think Americans will buy American made products. It may be a little bit more expensive, but wages will also go up. Once you have an industrial base that continues to grow, and people know it's a safe, right? It's a safe business. They're going to want to purchase that. I will tell you, here, Northwest Ohio, people love American made. They want American made. They will pay higher prices for American made. So I think we have a real chance with the tariffs and the combination of things that the president is doing to turn this back around.
I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I am your neighbor right next door there. And I think that something that has touched every community in this country, regardless of where it is, regardless of party lines, is the drug and fentanyl crisis. And President Trump, he has outlined some ways he wants to fight this, including just last week, his administration announced a $50 million bounty to get the Venezuelan president any information on him that would lead to his arrest. Also, President Trump has said things like he wants to use tariffs on places like Mexico, China, and Canada as a way to combat the fentanyl crisis. What else do you think can be done here to solve this problem?
Right. Well, I think one of the things that the president is doing is he's really securing our border. So, you have to think, how is fentanyl coming here? Well, it actually goes from China to Mexico through the United States. And then you think, how does it end up somewhere in North Ohio? Like, I mean, it's literally traveling up here. So I think the first thing is you have to secure our borders. You have to know what's happening. Also, we have to have realistic treatment plans. So fentanyl is really cheap, right? It's laced in almost everything. So, for example, people are overdosing at some point accidentally because they're buying maybe some other, like a painkiller, and it's laced with fentanyl. So I think we have to make sure, how do we actually rehabilitate these folks? And in the community here, we've had so many overdoses. I hear from so many mothers who've lost their children, or the opposite, children who've lost their parents to overdose. So we have to be really realistic about this. And I think the first step is securing our border, and then having treatment that I call evidence-based, and it has a return on investment. We can't keep having the same programs in place that don't actually decrease fentanyl use.
I'm curious what you think that treatment would look like because, like I said, this has touched almost every community, and there doesn't seem, as of this second, to be, this big one-step cure. So what do you think that treatment would really look like?
Right. So I think the first thing that the reason why people do turn to drugs is just quality of life. Right. So you're seeing, these blue, what I call like the Rust Belt, these blue collar areas are hit the hardest because it all ties back to jobs. Right. So when you don't have a job or you don't have a good quality job, it's easy to really get depressed and turn to other things. So I think one of the first things we have to do is look at jobs. Right. The second thing is in terms of treatment. I think what we've really looked at is, okay, how long does it take to get somebody clean? And what does that process look like? And I think a lot of it too is, hey, what is your next step? What's your job? A lot of people just don't have quality jobs or can't hold a job. So I think a lot of it is tied into work, right? There is dignity in work. So I look at those two as intertwined together.
And the seat that you're running for is very interesting, right? It is the 9th Congressional District in Ohio. It's a district that President Trump won by over 6 points in 2024, but the Democratic incumbent, Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur, she won, narrowly won, but beat her Republican challenger. What makes you think that you can beat her in 2026?
What I think has happened is we haven't run quality candidates. So this is one of those districts, and you pointed it out perfectly. This is an R+3 district. So President Trump won this district, and so did Marcy Kaptur. So what it tells you is, and we're just looking at data here, right? It tells you Northwest Ohio still votes for the person over party. They care. If we would have run the right candidate, I wouldn't even be here. And like everybody else, I was hoping this would turn because I don't think Ms. Kaptur is having the integrity. She says one thing, she's really a say-do gap. She says one thing, but then she votes like California and New York. But we're not California and New York. And so you need quality candidates that are going to be able to go against Marcy Kaptur's record. And so right now, I do think I can do that, right? I'm a political outsider. I don't have this sort of, long career in politics. And what you're seeing though, is people who are not, sort of have a political pedigree, they're winning. I mean, look at the vice president, look at the president, look at Vivek, look at Senator Marino.
And like you said, you're saying that she didn't run against a quality candidate, a quality Republican. That Republican's back in this primary. Former state representative Derek Marin, he narrowly lost to Kaptur in 2024. Like I said, he's looking for a rematch. Another Republican is State Representative Josh Williams. He serves as the majority whip in the Ohio House. Before you run against Kaptur, you have to come out on top in the Republican primary. What separates you from that pool of candidates?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question. I think the difference is you have somebody like Derek Marin who didn't do the hard work, was unable to raise enough money and actually go after Marcy's Kaptur record. So I think there's challenges there. By all means, he had the president's endorsement at that time, which I don't think he will get again. He also had the NRCC helping him raise money, and he still couldn't do it. So he had all the right things to happen. It was an exciting time. He should have won it. Then you have somebody like Mr. Williams who has a really colorful record, right? Somebody who's had a DUI, somebody who actually defends criminals, but who also says that they're hard on crime. These are the type of candidates Marcy Kaptur wants to run against, and we can't take a chance here. We cannot take a chance because what's at stake is we will lose the House and then the president will be impeached. We need to have somebody with a strong record and who can bring the fight to Marcy Kaptur.
We're seeing a redistricting fight in Texas play out right now, and Ohio seems to be next because Ohio has to redraw it rather, ahead of the 2026 midterms. This is a seat that could potentially be impacted by that redistricting. What do you think of that?
Ohio already had to do it. So in the last term, they didn't get a bipartisan support. So it was only good for 2 years. So Ohio was going to do this regardless what's happening in Texas, anywhere else. Ohio already had to do this type of work. And so, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the legislature, but that is up for them to decide how they want this to look. It's going to be tough because it has to be somewhat bipartisan and it has to pass so many levels of government to make it a reality. I will tell you, uh, some people want to make it, maybe an R+7. To me, it doesn't matter. I think this is a winnable seat right now. It's an R+3. Again, it goes back to it having a good quality candidate. So if they didn't touch this district, I'm actually perfectly happy with that. I still think we can turn this around.
That's really interesting because I want to read some reporting from the Cincinnati Enquirer. This is what they wrote. Senator Bernie Moreno told Punchbowl News that Republicans would probably end up with a 12-3 map that reflects the state. That would give Republicans 80% of the congressional seats in a state where Trump won 55% of the votes. So you're saying, hey, you know what? It doesn't even matter if they redraw this. The way the district looks today, I can win this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because President Trump won it by 6%. I mean, I think the data is there. And so if we don't redraw it, I'm perfectly comfortable with that. And let's listen, because Democrats are already spewing stuff, right? They're saying gerrymandering. You know what? Let's fight fair then. If you think that, I'm ready to go head to head with Marcy Kaptur the way it's drawn right now.
And I'm curious, what's next for your campaign here? Because like we said, you have the Republican primary to look forward to. So what are you doing between now and then?
Well, one of the first things I have to do, so this is the unfortunate part of politics, is you have to raise enough money. And so right now, Marcy Kaptur has about $1 million in her bank to use during her political campaign, right? And so I have to be able to counter that. So I'm taking the lessons learned and things the previous candidates didn't do, and I'm doing that. So one of the big things is being able to raise enough money, meeting constituents to get them to see, let's see the bigger picture. Do you want to win the primary or do you want to win the general? Who is going to be the best candidate to go to the general? So much is at stake here. So those are the things that I'm doing now so that when we get into January and May 2026, I can focus on just meeting people and convincing them why I'm the right choice. And more importantly, at the end of the day, I want to earn people's trust and vote. I want them to feel good that their vote is going to a candidate who's going to work hard. I'm not just here to blow hot air. I'm here to do something and get stuff done. I'm really serious about this. And there's a lot at stake right now. And so I'm really just trying to do the hard work.
Lieutenant Colonel Alea Nadeem, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to have more conversations soon. You're welcome back anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brittany.